right, thanks for staying tuned. Welcome back to The Verdict here on Channels Television. This is our election coverage studio, which opened earlier on this evening and will remain open until the election results are declared. That's after the second election, with, of course, residual breaks in between. But we're talking about the history of elections. We've talked a great deal about the history already. We're taking a look at more current events, more current historical events that are happening. And we're talking about the link between INEC, the security agencies, and how that plays out on election day. Now, Prof, you were on track when I had to put you on pause for us to take the break. Now, I want to use this analogy to create what I'm talking about. In 1983, I believe it was Professor Yebode who made reference to the late Sunday Adewusi, who was then the Inspector General of Police. And he was not responding to the equivalent of INEC, then FEDECO. He was not responding to FEDECO's directives when he brought in all the equipment that was being referred to, the armored tanks and all of that, that were used during those elections. Now, of course, things have since changed after that. But till today, there are these parallel lines that still run through election agencies as well as security agencies. And then on the day of the election in the field, the INEC officials are reporting to INEC, but the security agencies are reporting to their commanders. And that leaves quite a bit of gap.
Well, what we cannot escape from is the fact that historically, elections and security in Nigeria have always been entangled in many ways. And it depends essentially now, progressively, on how we decide to actually give them a role. And this is the whole basis of the Electoral Act, by trying to bring control of the security during the elections under INEC. And during those times, that law wasn't there. So by and large, you cannot expect the military people to take instructions and take orders from civilian authority, when especially there's no legislation backing that. But now that we have a legislation, there's an authority for that. But in practical terms, it all depends, as I said earlier, on the scenario on ground. If the scenario is largely peaceful and under some form of control and calm, then there will be less opportunity and less incentive for them to intervene on what is happening around. However, if there are factors on ground, like some of the places which Prof mentioned earlier on, and the creeks, then the security is likely to play a more visible role to ensure that the suitable environment is created for people to cast their votes. And it is our hope that things don't get out of hand and to bring them in wholesale. So this is by and large the connection between these two agencies. And so it's essentially environmental.
Okay, Prof, we've talked a lot about security and what to do on the day, but there's something that we seem to be forgetting. 2015, there was a peaceful handover. Yes, there were issues that happened on the ground, but at least the former president conceded and it was peaceful. But it was also one election that we began to hear underage voting and, you know, how did certain people register? The allegations were out there that in some parts of the country, people who were under the age of voting ended up voting. I'm going to put that question to you. How can we avoid that this time around? Because it was an allegation that came and went. And you remember that biometric verification does not stop illegal registration. So what do we do now?
I don't think this question will solve Saturday. But it should solve the question of our history as we go forward into our future. The reality is that it's quite offensive as a nation that we're still at this point in the 21st century. One thing you must recognize that as much as the fact that we're a young democracy in comparison to the West and many countries, but we should learn faster because they have gone ahead. If you want to learn faster, you sit with an elder. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Election is not a new phenomenon for us that we are the ones starting it, engineering it. The research started in America. I mean in Nigeria. We're behaving as if we are starting an election that nobody else has been successful at. there are a lot of issues within this election issue. There's a legal issue, there are legal frameworks, the issue of the constitutions and the many courts. For example, I would want the security people to have vehicles at every corner and junction where they will handcuff somebody immediately who begins to misbehave.
I thought we said we don't want visible
No, but if you need to make up our mind.
No,
for now you need that. But we should look into the future. For example, I asked INEC, why does it take so long for you to get the my PVC when I can get my ATM card overnight? So INEC said to me that, because I was in a conference and I asked the question, and INEC said to me that the thing with the bank is that with the PVC, they need to verify whether I'm in Nigeria, verify that. I said, please. First of all, the National Population Agency also has failed in his duty. There should be a database of all Nigerians who are truly born Nigerians.
But even that will not resolve Saturday either.
That's what I'm saying. So Saturday, we need to just go into this election and compel and speak to the youth of Nigerians, because they are the population that are going to be voting that day. And speak clearly. I mean, a platform like Channels is doing a great job. Parents at home, lecturers, pastors, imams. At least you have a Friday. A few churches will have a Wednesday service or a Thursday service. Let's talk to our people. There are consequences. At least in Nigeria, we tend to think that we all worship God. So let us have a little bit of fear of God, of the value for human life.
Prof,
I will not go into that.
Are we going to go philosophical, religious?
No, but because Saturday we can't do much to change anything. But I'm looking into the future that these are not independent institutions yet. We should not pretend that INEC is independent totally. We should not pretend that the military and all the paramilitary and everybody is independent. These are the kind of level of institutionalization that is required for the future. So if anybody is going to rule Nigeria in the future, or by Saturday, we know who will rule maybe by next week, we should make a demand on government.
But the hope is that by 2023, we're not still saying, oh, this will be for the next, because I realize
that's what I'm saying, we need to do that now.
We analyze elections 4 years after the next 4 years.
We are doing the same thing.
We constantly say, oh, perhaps by the next one.
Well, there's nothing you can do this week in 5 days' time. There's absolutely nothing you can do.
Prof.
Well, my friends in Abuja, Mama Tahir and Ansem Dinkalu, they lived and studied abroad. Okay, apart from the reference to UNILAG, I know Dinkalu was a visiting scholar in my school, Harvard Law School, and Mama took his PhD from Warwick, just like Gawan. I remember my student days in Canada. I got my voter's card in the mail. And I had to ask myself, am I entitled to vote? So I did not use it. But it came in the mail to my grad residence in Toronto.
Simple.
So that's why I say most of the problems we have...
looking at me? I'm not in charge of the mail.
No. Most of the problems we have stem from underdevelopment.
Simple.
You know, and so the fourth lines showing, like Madame pointed out, that we need to do a fact check on ourselves in terms of making it cost inefficient to be a vagabond, not to comply. We have to make it very expensive, very costly for those that don't want to play according to the rules. I'm tickled by the fact that Channels brought 3 law professors to discuss this issue, and we don't seem to be in a position, like Madam noted, to do anything between now and Saturday.
Yes.
So Saturday is going to be a real reality check for us. If we get through it on Saturday with fewer incidents and things go according to plan, then we can say we are making progress.
Exactly.
So by the time of 2023, as Mrs. Benite is saying, then we will all sit down again. Not like, 4 years ago we were on this panel.
Exactly. That's what
we were here.
I don't want to be here just talking about that anymore. We are demanding those who are going to run to do something about
that will be my contribution.
Yeah. Professor Dikalu, I'm almost in some level of trepidation to come to you for the simple reason that I listened to you in 2015 and even before then. And some of the things you said then,
Say it again.
You've had to say after that. But you've had to say them with predictions of even dire consequences if they were not done. But still they weren't done. And somehow, as the British would say, we're muddling through. Sometimes some get left behind. Others, get too far ahead of everybody else, and they tend to have to slow down. But as it is now, because we're in the last phases of this discussion for tonight, as it is now, everyone seems to be agreed that we can't do anything between now and Saturday to change anything. Everything is set. But what do you think people listening to us, people watching us, people online and so on, have to do to minimize what I could call collateral damage of any sort?
Well, thank you for that. I suspect if I had an answer to that question, I would be doing something else rather than I'm mouthing off.
Okay, you don't have an answer, but
at least you can guesstimate. Yes.
Push us
Seriously,
in one direction.
first of all, there is an entity called INEC. That's the Interagency Committee on Election Security. It's co-chaired by INEC and the National Security Advisor, and it's the place where a lot of coordination work is done on the security situation, our security architecture and parameters affecting the election. And Access is meeting on a regular basis to assess the situation and try to address them. And I do think that's one of the places where things can move. So entities like NDLEA, for instance, will come to that meeting with a lot of briefing on where the psychotropic substances and opioids are, and you have other entities coming with information on small arms and light weapons, and then they work out what to do about those and all of that. So that's very important, and that's one of the things that we could work on. There's a great deal of unevenness listening to this. I think many of us from southern Nigeria don't actually understand, sometimes have difficulties appreciating the difficulty of running these things in this country. And that's the penultimate point I'll make on this. You see, Imo State, I'll give you an instance. Imo State is 5,300 square kilometers, 27 local government areas. Borno State is 70,800 square kilometers, 27 local government areas. What does that mean? You have Imo State, all of southeastern Nigeria Borno State is like 2.5 times the size of all of southeastern Nigeria. So if you're moving electoral material in Imo State, you have very little territory to cover. But if you're moving electoral material in Borno State, you can, in one local government area, cover the entire territory of Imo State. That means the logistics of election management in Borno State are much more difficult than the logistics of election management in Imo State. Niger State, by the way, is 76,000 square kilometers. Mushishi local government area alone is bigger than Anambra State. Okay? And it seems to me we've got to understand Nigeria to scale, to be able to appreciate some of the difficulties that we're dealing with here. And I think some of that is missing. My final point is, on the day, the security challenges are going to be immense. If you are a security, and we have an uneven security landscape. If you are a security officer in Rivers State, in some parts of Rivers State where Daybam and Daywell and the Vikings are all armed, and on the day they are going to be testing their wells, you are not going to be sitting in a studio telling people about how to read rules and avoid being in uniform, because you're going to have to deploy fully. If you are in Baga, it is not the same thing as being in Ngopala. So it seems to me we've got to have a little bit of allowance for the unevenness that Professor Yebode spoke to, but also the fact that some parts of the country are in humanitarian law situations, other parts of the country are not.
All right, we'll have to take a break
yes,
at
but
this
I'm
point.
happy that Prof talked about the logistics of the Southeast.
Oh,
Because
yes.
I tried to talk about it in the beginning, and you told me
yes, I said
it was not
I wasn't,
a major
no, I didn't say
area.
that. I wasn't taking you up on anything. No, because I know
So it
you
is
wouldn't
good that
forget.
somebody
I
has
wasn't
noticed.
taking you up on anything. I wasn't taking you up on anything.
Thank you.
A break, and then we'll be back for the final stanza.